तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। साईराम लेन।
Sairam Sharma. Thank you, Swami, for once again graciously permitting Sharma and I to share stories of your infinite glory. Tonight, I am just giving a short but very sweet talk about something that Mata Betty revealed to me, and she asked me not to publish it during her lifetime. She said people would not understand, and so I will now speak about what she told me. Mata Betty had a long and very happy marriage to her husband, Jim. And when the time came for Jim to depart this world, he had a heart attack. The end was very quick, and Mata Betty was devastated. She said ours had been a good marriage, and the parting was very hard. As soon as was possible, after Jim's last rites, funeral and burial, according to Catholic rites, Mata Betty had a dream in which Swami said, come home 747. It was the voice of Swami in her dream to come back to him in Prasanthi Nilayam. And so as soon as she could, she took the next flight to India. She had taken the ring that Swami had made for her husband. She wanted to return this ring to Swami. As soon as she arrived in the ashram and was made comfortable in her room, she went to darshan, and Swami immediately called her in to the private interview room. Mata said she was kneeling at Swami's feet, sobbing, gave him the ring, and Swami put it in a little dish beside the throne. He was patting her cheek and consoling her for the loss of her husband. Mata said she was overcome with grief. She couldn't stop crying, and she kept holding Swami's hand to her cheek. It was like her life raft holding on to his hand while her tears flowed. There were also several young South African men in this private interview. There were 2 of them. And every now and then Swami would talk to them as well. This is an amazing example of how Swami could take care of more than one person all at once, all at the same time. So he is consoling Mata with one hand, and he is speaking to these boys with his other hand and with his sweet voice. These boys were from South Africa, and Swami was telling these boys to leave their families and their jobs and their business in South Africa and come to work for him. Mata was busy still crying and holding Swami's hand to her cheek, and suddenly she heard a strange sound coming from Swami's palm. She said it sounded like crackling, like the crackling sound you would hear from lightning or static electricity. And it got louder and louder, and Mata was so surprised by this, she stopped crying and moved Swami's hand away from her cheek. Then Swami took that hand and began moving it in the classical movement of creation, and holding his hand high, stacks of South African rand money notes started falling from his hand. They were in thin air, and these stacks of money notes began rolling themselves up, and rubber bands appeared out of nowhere, and these rolled up handfuls of banknotes fell into Swami's hands. He began giving them to these boys, telling them to use this money to go home to South Africa and wind up their business and take care of their families, then to come back and be with him. The sounds of all this, the rubber bands snapping, the money falling out of thin air, shocked and amazed Mata Betty so much that she stopped crying and forgot all of her grief. she said she stayed in touch with these two boys, and they did come back, and they became Sevadals for Swami, serving at the Whitefield ashram. Mata said that Swami would joke afterwards that the government better not find out that he was creating money, and Mata was laughing, "Oh, Swami, you are no counterfeiter." And so this is a wonderful example of how Swami took care of everybody's business in that one very sacred interview. Swami can do anything. He can do anything, and it is nothing for him to create money. I also saw another example of this, which I will talk about in another video. Thank you, Sharma, and thank you, Swami, for giving us this opportunity. Sairam.
Saram. Samastaloka Sukino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.